So, good day to everyone.
Good day.
I'm glad that you all arrived safe here. So, today we were going to discuss the arguments for and against the revival of death penalty in the Philippines. So, before we start, let's first define what death penalty is. So, according to the Hymas Dictionary, death penalty is the sentence of death imposed on a convicted criminal. So, this is the most severe kind of corporal punishment as it allows law enforcement officers to kill convicted offenders. So, forms of this are lethal injection, electric chair, firing squad, and other more. So just a piece of information, death penalty in the Philippines started even during the Spanish period as they brought the medieval Europe's penal system up to the time of Marcos. But it was abolished during Corio Aquino's by the 1987 Constitution. But then again, it was reimposed during the time of Ramos. And also, but during Estrada, he puts a de facto moratorium because of the campaigns of human rights groups and especially the church. But during Gloria Arroyo's time, it was totally abolished and just replaced by a lifetime imprisonment. So this discussion will cope the views and opinions of different social institutions, including the church, the legal authorities, our system as a whole. Also, this will show the arguments on why or why not death penalty should be revived.
And in addition of all of this, may I remind all of you that during our last meeting, we also talked about the countries that currently implementing and abolish the death penalty as a form of criminal punishment. Currently, there are 111 countries which are currently implementing that kind of criminal punishment, while 84 countries are still active in doing or implementing this death penalty as a method of punishing those people who commit hideous crimes and such.
So let's now discuss human rights and what constitutes human rights violation. So, Rain?
According to this Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner, human rights are rights inherent to all human beings, whatever our nationality, place of residence, sex, national or ethnic origin, and so on. So these rights, to top these are the right of life and the right to live free from torture, which are obviously violated by this death penalty.
Thank you for that information, Rain. Let's now hear the side of the church and the Catholic organization about this issue. So who knows what they say? Yes, Krisha?
Yes. Well, according to my research, ever since the end of the colonization period here in the Philippines, the church has opposed to the use of death penalty or capital punishment. However, because of the separation of church and state, they were unable to stop this decision of the governments to establish death penalty, especially in the time of Fidel V. Ramos and Joseph Estrada. Today, according to the Philippine Star, the National Council of Churches here in the Philippines are still opposing death penalty. The church opposes the immorality of taking a person's life away. And also, according to the Vatican Radio website, the church called on supporters of death penalty and asked them to consider an alternative which promotes rehabilitation instead of punishments. Lastly, they argue that we have an imperfect judicial system that may put innocents to the death throes.
Now that we heard that side of the church, let us now listen to what the legal authorities have something to say about this. So, what's the information, Ate Marja?
Well, it is no secret to us that the number one authority that's been pushing death penalty into reintroduction or revival is our current president, President Rodrigo Duterte. Well, according to Inquirer, which I found has two reasons why Mr. Duterte has been pushing for death penalty, is that he believes that someone who has been rehabilitated from 6 months to a year cannot be helped. They could not be changed. Second, he believes and once said that he wants it for retribution. He once said that, I believe in retribution. Why? You should pay. When you kill someone, rape, you should die. In opposition to this, we have CHR, which is Commission on Human Rights. Its chair, Gascon, said that they would ask the Congress if they could block, they could stop the revival of the death penalty. Second, he also argues that more and more states, countries have been removing death penalty. So why should the Philippines push for it?
So before we push her, let us first hear the crimes and laws under and implemented during the time when death penalty was still imposed in the Philippines. So, Ate Carissa?
The penalty was known as the RA 766. And when you read the Republic Act, under those are the crimes that we see now, not not equivalent to the penalty like carjacking, qualified bribery, or when you bribe an law enforcer and he does not give your punishment. That is equated to that penalty before. The crimes that are understandable to be equated to that penalty are parricide, infanticide, murder, rape, and other grievous and heinous crimes.
So thank you for that very informative data, Ate Carissa. So it's now time for us to listen to the voice of the Filipino citizens regarding this issue. So who among you guys know about, yes?
Yes, so there has been no official survey made by the but the Inquiry.net has made a poll to find out the readers' opinion on the revival of death penalty. So in their Facebook poll, 83% of 1,434 votes were in favor and the rest were not. And in their Twitter poll, 67% of their readers were in favor. So all in all, majority of the readers were in favor of reviving death penalty. There was also another survey that I have found made by the official student publication of UST, the Varsitarian. So the respondents were randomly selected from all the faculties and colleges of the university. They found out that 653 of the respondents, or 48%, were in favor, and 529 or 39% were not. So I researched also one criminal who was executed during when that penalty was still imposed. So his name was Eduardo Agbayani, and according to CNN.com, he was convicted for raping his daughter and was also accused of raping his other two daughters. So despite being the victim, his eldest pleaded Joseph Estrada to save his father's life, and instead of being put to death, being imprisoned instead for life.
There's actually a continuation to the interesting story. When Presidents are receiving order that the death penalty order should be terminated or should be stopped. And when he was calling the prison that would execute the man, the call wasn't being pushed through. It actually put through, and he was too late in ordering the termination of the death penalty by 1 minute. So the man was already dead when the call was.
So let's now go to the arguments on why death penalty should be revived here in the Philippines. So Nikki, you collected information, so can you present it to us?
According to my research, for them there are three arguments why the revival should be pushed through. The first one is prevention. They think that imprisonment isn't enough because they think that the criminals can do crimes inside the jail. Also, they can be the years implemented to them can be expired and they can be set free, and there is a chance for parole. So they think that that penalty should be pushed through to prevent the criminals from committing more crimes.
Then the next one is retribution, like what Ate Marta said. Then the third one is self-defense. They say that it is okay to harm the other party if your life is being threatened. And according to one article that I've read, they say that since we've been ready for a change, death penalty can be that change that we need. But in order for us to implement death penalty, our justice system should be
Effective.
yes effective. That and that's all.
Can we know who made the first argument?
Well, it's just about a study, and actually in the end, they say that they should study more about it.
Because I don't think it should be an argument. We send people into jail to reflect. I'm not really sure, but I think it's about that. So if we assume that if they go out, they are not rehabilitated yet. So it's defeating the purpose of the jail itself.
Also, I forgot to tell you that they say that if we re-implement death penalty, it would give the criminals fear. Maybe it would give them more. It would make them think twice
Before doing,
before
correct.
doing the crimes they're about to do. And
Yeah,
also,
maybe.
I've heard in news. It was this month that the House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez said 2 measures will be passed by the House Representative before Christmas break.
Oh.
The first one is the restoration of death penalty and the lowering of the age to criminal responsibility.
Well, I've read something about what you said about the effectiveness of death penalty, but I've read that in the past years when death penalty was still implemented, it was not that effective.
Yes.
Crimes were
Yeah.
still
Yes. I've read that there's no correlation about the death penalty and the number of crimes. Even though there was death penalty, there were still a lot of
High
crimes.
crimes.
That
Yeah.
was actually the reason why President Arroyo abolished it in 2006.
So let's now go to the opposing side. So what are the arguments that may go through against the implementation of the penalty? So what's the yes, Paul?
My research, I encountered this treaty in an article from CNN, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. This treaty prescribes countries to respect the right and observe the fundamental freedoms of their citizens, which include the freedom of expression, religion, and the freedom from cruel, inhumane, or degrading punishments. The last part, death penalty would be considered as an inhumane or cruel act of punishment. Therefore, this must mean that the implementation of death penalty would mean that the implementation itself of death penalty would be against the international law. And this treaty aside, because I've read in another article that the cost of executing a prisoner would far exceed the costs of keeping that prisoner alive within the prison.
Yeah. Now that we've heard all sides, it just proves that this issue is really timely and something to be discussed. So Josh, can we get the summary of the discussion
Yes,
today?
you may. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the following information that we presented today is being summarized, and here it is. First, our leader or the organizing person of this meeting said that the death penalty is a way of punishing people who did hideous crimes, such crimes that like kidnapping, rape, and other kinds of crimes that may seem very severe or evil to the eyes of the citizens of a certain country. And it was first implemented during the during the Marcos administration as a method of punishing those people who rebel against the administration. And it was abolished in the Cory administration, but it was again implemented during the Ramos administration. But the death penalty, death penalty faced a total abolishment during the Arroyo administration, where certain law implemented. Actually, the Republic Act number 9346 is used to abolish the death penalty totally. And after that, the first speaker is about the human rights. She talked about the human rights and said that the Human Rights Commissioner here in the Philippines, and also among all the other members of the United Nations, is against the implementation of the death penalty. And second, about the church stand against death penalty. Of course, that the church, not just in the Philippines but also in the whole world, especially the Roman Catholic Church, is against the implementation of death penalty, because it violates the right of a person to live, because they believe that life is sacred. And the third one is about the law. She talked about the currently one of the person who influences the re-implementation of death penalty in the Philippines is none other than our current president, which is President Rodrigo Duterte. He also said that when you rape, you must die. When you kill, you must die. A life for a life. He said that. And those people who did not change for about 6 months to 1 year,
Yes.
he said that they should die. So that's the reason, that's the main reason why our president currently invokes the Congress and the legitimate powers of our administration to implement death penalty. And the next one, the fourth speaker said about the current law that inhibits the implementation of death penalty. Like I said, the Republic Act number 9346 inhibits that re-implementation. But as we all know, death penalty is used for hideous crimes. But as we read, and currently, President Rodrigo Duterte considers crimes like minor stealing, like stealing by minor crimes, and other juvenile crimes. He views it as a hideous crime also, and intends to also punish those people by death penalty, which is shocking because death penalty is not meant for that reason and for that purpose. For the fifth speaker, she talked about Philippine citizen, what the Filipinos think about the implementation of death penalty. Of course, and unfortunately, the citizens of our country thinks that death penalty is a change for greater good. Mainly because the citizen of this country is dreading, aside from dreading, is a thirst for change, for justice, which is currently imbalanced and not right for our country today. And for the sixth speaker, the sixth and the seventh speaker discussed the arguments about the re-implementation regarding death penalty. For the side that agrees with the revival of the death penalty, she said that death penalty should be re-implemented because it's for prevention. Next is it's for retribution for those families of the victims. Next is for self-defense, and also it's for the greater good, the change for the greater good, like what I mentioned earlier. While in the opposing side, it said that death penalty shouldn't be re-implemented because primarily the cost of executing cost more than the prison or prisoning those inmates or those people that perform hideous crimes. Second, Amnesty International said that death penalty refrains someone to live. And lastly, it limits freedom of expression, it limits living, it's an inhuman tool of punishment. So that is the summary of the of today's meeting.
So before we formally end this discussion, I want to hear your opinion, guys, about this revival. So who are for the revival of this death penalty in the country? Those are not. Yeah, that sounds interesting. So we will continue our discussion next meeting, maybe on Thursday, same time and same place. So thank you again for cooperating, and God bless to everyone.
Thank you.